All right, ladies and gentlemen. So as you know, you may or may not be encouraged by the title of this video. And I just want to point out that the simple answer to is TBC or Burning Crusade better than, like, which one is better and why, has to do with the simple fact that if you liked anything about classic World of Warcraft, there's a good chance that it doesn't exist in TBC. And if you did not like anything about classic World of Warcraft, then there's a good chance that you will like it in its iteration in Burning Crusade, at least the way that they're proposing to come out with it. The problem I see with this, however, is that World of Warcraft Classic is a massively popular game in its genre. In fact, it's like the most popular version of the game in its genre that we currently know, right? And what this means is that obviously classic World of Warcraft is doing something right, which means that if you start going through doing something right and you try to pick out every little thing that people didn't like and then fix it, the odds are very good that you're going to end up with a worse off game, which I think what we end up with in Burning Crusade. So, for those who don't know, just so I can put out some credentials here and that kind of crap, my background is I am a socio-economic political philosopher. That's actually my degrees. But I'm also a game designer. So I actually study all this crap. Mostly for my own game that I'm releasing on Steam, I think, in about a year. I'm still working on some stuff on that one. So anyways, I kind of know this stuff decently well, or at least I feel like I know this stuff well enough to talk about it. So we're going to make a video on the subject. Okay. So let's begin with by looking at what you may or may not like in classic World of Warcraft. So you're looking at the screen right now, and you're seeing a bunch of like green check marks and a bunch of X check marks. But really, this is disingenuous. And the reason why this is disingenuous is any red X mark over here could be a positive for you, and any green check mark over here can be a negative for you. A good example would be raid difficulty right here, right? Classic WoW does not have raid difficulty. Burning Crusade most definitely is going to have raid difficulty, right? Well, the question is, if you're the kind of person who hates easy raids, then Burning Crusade is going to be your boy. But if you're the kind of person who loves easy raids, like you're a socializer or you're just a PvPer who wants to go and get your gear, or you're just the kind of person who's not very skilled but you just want to see the content, easy raids are a good thing for you, right? So this could just as easily be a green check mark for you as it could be an X for somebody else. So everything here needs to be taken with a grain of salt. Everything here needs to be looked at in terms of, how do we put this? It's like Classic WoW might be a better fit for some people, and then Burning Crusader is going to be a better fit for other people. What we're really looking at is just demographics in general. Like, is there actually a net gain of people who are going to like Burning Crusade over people who like Classic World of Warcraft? All right, let's start off with World PvP. Did you or did you not like World PvP in Classic World of Warcraft? If you did not like World PvP in Classic World of Warcraft, then the answer is very simple. You do not roll on a PvP server. Like, that simple, right? In Burning Crusade, whether you're on a PvP server or you're not on a PvP server, you're kind of fucked. World PvP does not exist because flying mounts are a thing, and it is very, very rare indeed for one class to run into another class on the ground who one of them can't just peace out and mount up and fly away if they don't have to. There is this makes this just a net loss as far as player demographics go, because it means that world PvPers have no recourse, and people, you get the point, right? It's like, if you like world PvP, Burning Crusade is not for you, right? That simple. There's an easy fix to this, however, and the easy fix is you just put a timer on how often people can get on their flying mount. So, for example, if the moment you enter combat, you're not allowed to get on your flying mount for like a minute, you can mount up like normally, so therefore it doesn't really affect duels or battleground PvP or old world PvP all that much. Not like you can't mount, you just can't get on your damn flying mount for like a minute, then PvP servers would actually be a thing. So there's a really easy fix for Blizzard to do to actually solve this problem, but it is, as it stands, a net loss in Burning Crusade. All right, raid difficulty. Like I mentioned, this could just as easily be a green check mark as this could be a red check mark. Anyways, it's technically a net loss, and the reason why it is because raid difficulty increases are going to make some demographics happy, and they're going to make some demographics unhappy. The problem is when you start factoring in the socializers, right? Once you factor in the socializers hate difficult raid content because one of the things they love to do in at least classic World of Warcraft is they get together as a 40-man raid, and they get together on like a Saturday, a Sunday night, and they spend like 2 hours doing Molten Core, Blackwing Lair, AQ40 might be an all-night raid for them, and they just drink beer, get drunk, eat pizza, and shoot the shit. And usually they're laughing their asses off because a lot of socializers are really good at making jokes. So it's like being in a comedy movie or some crap like that. And socializers are just kind of a more the merrier kind of a group, and so forth and so on. So when we get down to here socializing, we're going to see that socializers get doubly screwed over in TBC because they go from not only a 40-man raid to a 25-man raid, which is really, really bad for socializers, but then the difficulty is also increased as well for them in TBC. The proposed solution, so it's a net loss from a demographics perspective. Burning Crusade, when we say net loss for demographics perspective, what we're saying is that Burning Crusade is going to make less people who would want to play Burning Crusade happy than classic World of Warcraft would, right? Does that make sense? Okay. However, there is an interesting solution, and the solution is that you actually allow people to go into Burning Crusade raids as like a 40-man group, but you just like cut the amount of loot that they have like virtually in half. Like you try to math out like, okay, how long would it take a 25-man group to get fully geared out from raiding? Literally make it twice as long for people who want to do it as like a 40-man. Easy way in Burning Crusade would be you just cut the number of badges that they get in half, because now they're trying to split whatever drop loot between 40 people as opposed to 25, and if you have the number of badges, that it should be close enough to like twice as long for them to gear out. So this actually kills two birds with one stone. The first bird that it ends up killing is that, and I'm talking about killing birds now, Jesus. the YouTube algorithms are like, what the hell? Is you, number one, you fix the socializing problem from classic World of Warcraft to TBC, which is that you don't have 40-man raids anymore, right? Suddenly you have 40-man raids, which means the old guild roster and the old boys can go shoot the shit in the raids and blah, 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 blah. They can literally guild together and raid together. On top of that, 40-man raid for 25-man content, even if the content is supposed to be difficult at 25-man, it's going to be pretty goddamn easy at 40, very similar to classic World of Warcraft raids, but at the same time, that's precisely where socializers thrive. Socializers are not flexers, so they don't really care, but we'll get into the whole flexer, not flexer thing when I get over to this clip over here. Salters and flexers and that whole dynamic, and how you definitely should not be catering to one or the other. So just stay tuned. I got a lot more to talk about on that subject. So increase in raid difficulty is actually a net loss because it really hurts the socializers, like really, really bad, on top of really hurting people who just kind of suck at raiding in general and they can't deal with difficult raids. But then there's people who, really like difficult raids, and so they're happy. So I figure that's two minuses and one plus. So we're at a net loss there. Deep and varied PvP specs, gearing, and encounters. So this is specifically for PvP encounters, right? So the PvP encounters in classic World of Warcraft. Oh, you mother! Control Z, Control Z. The PvP encounters in classic World of Warcraft are ridiculously varied because you don't know what skills you don't know what talents people have. You don't know what skill level they are. You don't know what their gear is. And you definitely don't know what kind of weird fangled gadgets and gizmos they're bringing to the party. Like, do they have an AGM trinket? Do they have a Goblin Rocket Helm? Do they have a Tidal Charm? Like, oh my god. And then, of course, there's the world PvP aspect where you're never quite in a fair fight out in the world PvP. And thank God, because when you're in Battlegrounds, you're also not in a fair fight. So, Training is training, am I right? And then you're also adrift in like an ocean of gear. That's really hard to figure out from both from a PvP perspective, at least. So, Burning Crusade does not have this at all. The gear variance, if you were to compare total gear variety in Classic World of Warcraft versus total gear variety available to you in PvP in Burning Crusade, there are a number of factors that are absolutely screwing you over. First off, there's very little gear. And this is kind of a pro and a con that didn't really make this list, right? So if if you wanted to play a certain spec, like you have an entire talent tree in Classic World of Warcraft, but for some reason it just doesn't work in Classic WoW, like Prop Paladin, Ret Paladin. This is not PVE. This is like a PVE perspective, right? Boomkin Druid. All that just sucks a dick in PVE in Classic World of Warcraft. But in Burning Crusade, they have gear specifically to cater to just about every spec known to man. However, the pool of gear that they have becomes like this absolute shallow, tiny puddle, right? Compared to Classic World of Warcraft. So, for example, the gear that you're going to be seeing in like Phase 1 TBC, like the first tier of rating, is the gear you'll be seeing in whatever Phase 2, and then Phase 3, and then Phase 4, and how many other fucking phases they have. Your gear stays the exact same fucking thing. The only exception is the numbers get bigger. So rather than it being like, oh shit, there's a huge difference between Tier 1, Tier 2, the rank gear, Tier 2.5, Tier 3, then there's all these random pieces that are dropping everywhere. I can mix and match a bunch of different gear pieces. There's all these weird, interesting items with interesting abilities. Like, Classic WoW is literally just dropping you in an ocean of complexity and going, I don't know, you figure it out. But in TBC, they're like, hey, we're going to really customize stats and we're gonna really customize the I forget what the term is. Damn, I should know this one. Optimize. Yeah, we're gonna really optimize the gear specifically for how many specs you got? 3. We're gonna optimize gear for those 3 specs, and if you want to play something else or a hybrid, go fuck yourself. That's basically what Burning Crusade does. So, if you hate the fact in Classic World of Warcraft that you are adrift in an ocean of variety in the gearing, and that there's no really well rating optimized gear, or there's really no good like PvP optimized gear until like Naxxramas or something like that, then you're going to be happy going into Burning Crusade because there is optimized gear for very clear specs. But this makes the game very shallow and very cookie cutter, specifically from a PvP perspective, right? Does that make any sense? And it also makes it kind of shallow from a PvE perspective, although there are probably a little bit more options. Well, you win some, you lose some with the PvE stuff, right? So it's like more specs are viable to take. It's like, oh God, so it's like raid difficulty is something that dictates how many specs are viable in PvE. So, for example, just about any spec, whether it's good or bad, is viable in Classic WoW PvE because the raids aren't that hard. The moment you start making raid difficulty harder, you start making everyone a meta slave, which means more less and less variety and less options. People can't play X, Y, and Z if they want to because the raid demands differently. It's the same thing with the arena. The arena also greatly screws over varied PvP specs, gearing, and encounters because it also demands a meta style play. So rather than running into people who are like rank 14, but their skill set is actually shit, like you'll find in like Classic World of Warcraft, or people who are like decked out in like full Naxxramas Biss, but god damn do they not have any PvP skills. That's not the way it works in Classic World of Warcraft with the arena system at all. And that really hurts the gearing process or the variety process. So it's like, take Paladin, for example, because I know Paladin. So out in the world, you might run into like one of 4 different Paladin specs, or maybe there's like 5 viable PvP Paladin specs. But the moment you step into the arena world, there's only 2. And one of them is top tier, and the other one is a semi-meme. So it's like, oh god. And it's the same way for everybody else. It's like rogues have 1 spec in the arena in world PvP, or just in battlegrounds they might have like 2 or 3 specs. But in Arena, it's just one, and nobody else really does anything. Kind of sucks. I consider this one to be kind of neutral. Like, some people are going to be happy about this, some people are not going to be happy about this. It just depends on numbers at that point. And so we don't have the demographics, numerically the demographics, so we can't tell if this is a net gain or a net loss in player popularity. Dueling in TBC. Apparently, dueling in TBC does not exist. I keep asking around. I keep watching videos. I talk to people who play on private servers. Notice that anybody talking about PvP, they don't talk about duels. For like Burning Crusade, they don't talk about duels. Apparently, the reason they're not talking about duels is there is like PvE BIS gear that requires for like multiple phases, that multiple tiers of raiding content. There we go. That requires you to be like a blacksmith or a jewel crafter, for example. This is assuming Blizzard finds a way to fix the drum issue, right? So that everybody doesn't have to have one of their professions taken up by leatherworking in order to get a raid slot. There's still like blacksmithing weapons that are BIS for like 2 tiers of raid content, and you actually have to be a blacksmith in order to use the item. It's kind of the same thing for like jewel crafters. There's items that are cloth wearers and stuff where there's just gear that is just BIS for multiple tiers of raid content, but you have to be that profession to use it. What this means is that nobody actually takes engineering. And it'll get even worse if the raid difficulties are painful, because again, increasing raid difficulty makes you a meta slave. Increasing PvP gearing difficulty will also make you a meta slave, which means that even like in Classic WoW, nobody gives a shit if you're going in there with like completely scuffed PV, like raid, completely scuffed PvE professions. There we go. Thank God. Like, you go in, like, engineering and, like, mining or some shit like that. Like, you're borderline useless in PvE, right? Nobody gives a shit because the PvE content is so easy. So the reason why dueling dies, apparently, according to people I talk to, is that you're considered a weird weeaboo PvP tryhard fuckboy if you have engineering, right? So just like in Classic World of Warcraft, we kind of set our own dueling rules for ourselves. So the dueling rules in Classic World of Warcraft are basically, it's like, no, you're allowed to use engineering if you have it. You're allowed to use just about any gadget or gizmo that exists. You're not allowed to use oils. You're not allowed to use food buff. You're not allowed to use healing potions. You know, you might do dark runes. You might be allowed mana pots based upon CDL rules. But the dueling community kind of sets its own rules for itself, right? And apparently, one of the rules in Burning Crusade is no engineering, because how do I put this? It's like people don't have the spare. It's just no engineering. No engineering in TBC is like no potting in WoW, basically, where it's like not everyone's going to have engineering, and you're like some weird PvP tryhard fuckboy if you have engineering. And we're practicing dueling so I can get better at Arena, because Arena is the only thing that matters, and you're not allowed to use engineering in Arena. Therefore, if you're going to duel me, you're not allowed to use engineering. Like, that's just Burning Crusade. But the moment you tell people, okay, so here's what's happening in Burning Crusade, right? So not only do the weird gadgets and gizmos don't really exist anymore from Classic World of Warcraft, like you don't have your title charms, you don't have your, I don't know, title charm might still be a thing, don't quote me on that. You don't have your Arena Grandmaster trinkets, you don't have your Gnomish Netomatics, you don't have all the engineering gear that is so fucking awesome in PvP or hated in PvP in Classic World of Warcraft. You don't have your rocket helms. You don't have your Edward the Odds. You don't have your Stygian shield, the shield that's got like a 15% chance to slow you every time you get hit from Naxxramas. You know, you don't have all these weird fucking items that you can use in arenas, and you don't have them that you can use in duels. And then they tell you that you can't use engineering in duels, which makes it really, really limited in the amount of variety you have in PvP and dueling, which makes dueling super fucking cookie cutter. All right? Super cookie cutter. It would be like in Classic World of Warcraft if you told people, okay, we're going to duel, but you're not allowed to use engineering or any of the weird items from Classic WoW. Let's go. How long does it take the dueling community to figure out the rock, paper, scissors meta of that. It's like, I'm a rogue, and or it'd be like, what is it? It'd be like, I'm a warrior trying to fight anything that can slow me, and now I don't stand a chance in hell, right? Or I'm a paladin trying to chase down a hunter. This isn't going to work. This just isn't going to work. So that's one of the reasons why dueling isn't really a thing, is because everybody kind of shuns engineering. There's not a depth of weirdness to the items to help offset the cookie cutter nature of 1v1s in general. That classic WoW typically falls into if there's not an ocean of weird items that you can throw into the mix. So apparently dueling's not a thing in TBC. Don't believe me? Go ask around. Go watch some PvP videos. They do not talk about dueling. Every once in a while they do bring up dueling, and they just kind of shrug and say it's not really a thing. So I'm expecting it to not be a thing. So this is a net loss. Nobody is happy about dueling not being in TBC. It's like, who is that guy? Yay, no dueling. Woo! Who the fuck is that? Anyways, socializing. So we talked about this already a little bit, but socializing takes a massive hit in TBC. Like, the socializing community just gets absolutely murdered, right? They're taking cocks from front and behind in TBC. And basically they get hit twice, right? So they get hit in the fact that they go from 40-man raids to 25-man raids, and they get hit in the fact that there's an increase in raid difficulty. And then also they technically get hit a little bit by the fact that there's no world PvP. So there's some socializers who can't stand world PvP, but they also got catered to with PvE servers. And then there's other socializers that really do like a world PvP environment, because they're the kind of socializer who just really likes helping people, you know what I mean? And if the world is a dangerous, difficult place to exist in, and you have to try to work together and so forth and so on, you get the point. Socializers also benefit, strangely enough, from like easy like raid and dungeon content that is needed to be done to get gear, that other people, less skilled people, can't really do on their own, right? So, for example, socializers are always down to, like, run Black Rock Depths, or they're down to go do, like, Sunken Temple, or a Scarlet Monastery to help out guildies and friends. And as long as the content isn't too difficult, then they're perfectly happy to go help people with dungeons, and because they can socialize while doing the content at the same time, right? And that makes them happy. But the moment you start throwing in really difficult raids, or you start throwing in like heroic dungeons, for example, which heroic dungeons are, oh god, they are whoa, they will do not fuck around in TBC. Heroic dungeons are, you can't be like, there's 5 guild members who are struggling with a heroic dungeon, I'll just go carry them a little bit, right? It's not like Strat Undead where you can go carry your boys for a little bit. Heroic dungeons will absolutely fuck you up. And there's gear in there that you really, really need. So it's like, shit. So yeah, they get punished from increased PvE difficulty, and they get punished from a sizable reduction to guild size. The socializers are not happy. That's why we have it as a mass net loss here. Technically, the antisocial people gain, right? So I do have it here that some people are happy, right here. Some happy. So here's the problem, though, with the people that are happy about these changes. It's like, all right, so you're telling me that, and they're happy for 2 reasons, right? They're happy for the increased raid difficulty, and they're happy that they're going from 40-man to 25-man specifically so they can get away from the socio-political nightmare aspect of classic World of Warcraft kind of a thing, right? But they're still going to be... Throw LFR and throw sharding into the mix, and they will be perfectly happy. Basically, I'm looking at a group of people who are playing a massive massive online multiplayer, massive multiplayer online RPG video game, and they really, really want to get away from the multiplayer aspect. Like, they can't deal with the multiplayer aspect of the game. And these are the people who are being made happy by these changes to go to TBC. It's like, you're borderline playing the wrong game is basically what I'm saying. Or at the very least, if a person who is in that demographic, who's just an antisocial motherfucker, you need to realize that um, having a game like World of Warcraft try to cater to you is a really bad thing, right? It's like, hey, I'm an antisocial guy. If I want to be an antisocial guy, I'll go play like a single player first person shooter game or a multiplayer first person shooter game. I don't have to talk to anybody. Or I'll just find some content to do in classic World of Warcraft that I don't have to socialize with. The game really shouldn't be catering to you because it's just going to really hurt the game, kind of a thing. Unless I can find ways to both cater to what you like and cater to the socializer at the same time, which of course is my proposed fix up here, which is you just let the 40-man raids go do the raids, but you give them significantly less rewards. All right, what else we got going here? Explorers. Explorers I don't really have mentioned over here because there's really two types of explorers, in my opinion. There's explorers, people who actually like exploring, like they just like seeing the content and walking around the world and doing the quests and reading about the lore and oohing and awing at everything. I feel like they're fucking grandmas or something. Like, I don't know what the hell an explorer is, but some people really like exploring. And as long as they're getting like new content, they're kind of satiated. And there's really no way to both you can't screw up catering to the explorers, and anything that caters to an explorer pretty much doesn't hurt anybody else, so there's no gain or no negative to the explorers. But then you have this other type of explorer, which are technically what I call puzzlers. Okay. Moral of the story is, if you hated socializing in classic World of Warcraft, you're probably still going to hate it in TBC, but it's going to be a little better because you're only doing 25 man raids. However, if you're a I hate socializing really bad player at the game, you're still not going to be happy because of the increased raid difficulty and then the stress on you. So pick your poison over there. If you really like socializing in classic World of Warcraft, you are going to absolutely despise TBC. Holy shit. Enjoy. All right, but then you got puzzlers, right? So you got explorers and you got puzzlers. So a puzzler is a type of explorer, but they're not really interested in looking at the world or looking at the content. They're interested in digging into systems, right? So these are the kind of people who are really interested in trying to figure out the best gold farming. They're interested in trying to figure out the best leveling. They're interested in trying to figure out the best PvP specs, or the best PvP gearing, or the best PvP tactics, or the best PvE gearing, the best PvE tactics, the best blah, 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 right? They're people who like variety and complexity in their game precisely so they can spend a lot of time trying to puzzle their way through it. Classic World of Warcraft has this in spades because it basically, it has this in spades in some area and then it doesn't have it in spades in other area. But puzzlers are kind of a weird animal in the sense that as long as you're throwing variety and options at them, they're satisfied. So, for example, you might say to yourself that PvE puzzling, PvE puzzling like in raids, isn't really a thing because, one, everybody's already mapped it out already. Theoretically, and number two, the raid content was so easy that it doesn't really mean that puzzling doesn't do you any good. The problem with that statement is that puzzlers just like to try to figure out what is optimal. Like, they literally try to figure out what is game theory optimal. And so whether or not you make the content hard for them or you make the content easy for them, they're going to just try to figure out what the meta is, like what the best tactics and what the best gearing options are available. They're gonna kind of be satiated no matter what, as long as they're adrift in an ocean of gearing possibility and just variety in general. Classic World of Warcraft for just about any version of puzzler is extremely good, because you are adrift in an ocean of weird-ass gear that does weird-ass shit with some weird-ass stat prioritization on it, and it's just like, I don't know, you figure it out, which is like a puzzler's wet dream. And we've been puzzling over a classic World of Warcraft for decades, and we still haven't quite figured it all out yet, obviously. Let's see here, what else we got? Yeah, and when they remove like batching from classic World of Warcraft, it's going to be a whole different ballgame for PvPers. As far as it changes things, right? So I'm a puzzler, so this is kind of my jam. TBC doesn't really have much puzzling going on, believe it or not. Again, it's part of the gearing issue. Everything is so cookie cutter. You're kind of pigeonholed into doing exactly what Blizzard says you should be doing and nothing else. Raid difficulty is as such that you can't really deviate from the meta. You're now a meta slave in TBC because they want to ramp up the difficulty rating. There's just not a lot to puzzle out in TBC, to be perfectly honest. From PvP, from PvE, gold farming might be still a little interesting in puzzling out. I am a paladin, and apparently paladins are mages in TBC, so this doesn't super interest me because I kind of already have an idea of the best ways to go what gear you should be using, what specs you should be using, where you should be going, and the fact that you should be taking another fucking paladin with you, because Blessing of Sacrifice is the shit. Moving on here. Let's see. Lots of things to do, PvPer or PvE. Right, so this is a weird one. Okay, so I'll just read it, what I have over here. So I have massive net loss. If you are a PvEer, you don't have to PvP. This is in TBC. So in TBC, if you're a PvEer, you don't have to PvP, unlike Classic World of Warcraft. In Classic World of Warcraft, if you're a PvEer and you're one of those weird wackaboo flexers, so there's two types of PvEers, right? There's people who want to flex and they want to parse, and then there's people who don't really give a shit and they just want to, socialize and or get the gear and or just chill, right? And if you're the kind of person who wants to socialize and chill in PvE, TBC is going to suck for you, not because there isn't a lot to do, but because the difficulty has increased of the raids. So this is the knock-on effect of they're like, oh, let's try to cater to this small group of people who want difficult raids. Yay, we're getting difficult raids. Meanwhile, these people down here are like, fuck. Yeah, so if you're a PvEer who just wants to chill, you're not interested in parsing or flexing, an increase in difficulty in raid is probably not good for you. Meanwhile, you don't have to go and get the PvP gear at all in order to do good in raids, but if you're a parser in Classic World of Warcraft, you got to go get the PvP gear. Now you don't have to do either. It works in reverse. So as a PvPer in Classic World of Warcraft, I have to go do the raids. This isn't too much of a pain in the ass because at least the raids are easy. Therefore, it's decently easy for me to go get the gear, right? Just a little time consuming, but it gives me a lot of stuff to do. The raids require a lot of consumables. PvP requires a lot of consumables, which means I spend a lot of time out in the world farming. I got to do a lot of farming out in the world for mats and gold and so forth and so on. The world is fucking dangerous if you're a PvPer because you're like on a PvP server, so you get into some world PvP. There's just a lot to do as a PvPer in Classic World of Warcraft, and there's a lot to do as a PvEer in Classic World of Warcraft as well, right? However, in TBC, if you're a PvPer, you don't have to raid. And a lot of people at first are going to be rejoicing over this, right? They're like, hooray, if I'm a PvEer, I don't have to do PvP, thank fucking God. And then other people are like, hooray, I'm a PvPer, I don't have to do any of this PvE shit. Hooray, there's literally no gear for you as a PvPer in any of the raids. There's like the tiniest whiff of an item here and there, and you can easily get that with like Badges of Justice, which I think you can get out of like 5-man heroics or just like running whatever. It's not that big of a deal. You can GDKP that if you have to. Like, you're not even buying the stuff. You're like, hey, help carry me through a raid because I don't really like raiding, so I just want the badges so I can buy my gear, and blah. Not even that big of a deal. There'll be like 3 pieces of gear tops in the entire expansion you might need from PvP, and I'm not joking about that. Maybe 5. The entire expansion of TBC as a PvPer, you might want 5 items out of PvE content. Don't believe me? Go look it up. Anyways, what this means is a lot of people might rejoice at the fact that there's not a lot to do, but you're going to be rejoicing for literally 3 months until you get bored. Right? Literally 3 months and now you're bored. So for me as a PvPer, what my life in TBC is looking like is I don't like raiding. Right? I don't like raiding. I think it's dumb. I don't like beating my head against just an AI, right? I want to beat my head against a human being who can think and feel and bleed and cry and be miserable and outplay me, right? That kind of a thing. Make me learn shit. So what my PvP existence is going to look like in TBC, which assuming I even bother playing TBC, is it's like I go into classic TBC. I get my I get pre-raid bis. I get pre-raid, pre PVE bis, because those two things kind of go together. Because there is no arena gear out just yet, so you actually have to go do Karazhan and heroic dungeons in order to get your pre PvP bis. But once you start getting the PvP gear out of the arenas, I have no reason to go do PvE content ever again. And arenas don't really use consumables, which means I don't really have a reason to go and farm gold significantly ever again. Which means, okay, now I'm gladiator in arena. That wasn't all that hard because I don't suck and I'm not a dumbass. I've helped the paladin PvP community also get gladiator because I don't suck and I'm not a dumbass. And I just get to go tell them, hey, go take this spec, go use these tactics. You'll get gladiator, like straight up. That's gonna be, and then what? Then I just like quit classic WoW for a while, classic TBC for a while, and then just don't come back for a new arena season to prove I can do it all over again. Like that's fucking retarded. So again, it's literally like there's gonna be a lot for me to do for the first 3 months, and then I'm gonna get fucking bored. And that's gonna be pretty much the way it is for just about everybody. Unless you're literally like, oh, I love PvP and I love PvE, so I'll just do it all. And it's like, okay, well, you know, a lot of us aren't that way, so it is what it is, kind of a thing. Wife's laughing at me. All right, so let's go over here. Oh, let me make sure I'm done over here. Okay. All right, so the last thing I want to talk about, net losses, net gains, blah, 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 is where you're going wrong as a game designer, Blizzard, right? Like where Blizzard precisely is screwing things up. And perfectly honest, when I look at the changes from like classic World of Warcraft to TBC, and I think Kevin Jordan is aware of this, the game designers who worked on going from classic World of Warcraft to TBC should be absolutely fucking ashamed of themselves. Like you should be ashamed of yourselves, despite the fact that you made millions of dollars, if not billions of dollars, for people. Shame on you. And the reason why you should be ashamed of yourself, and I think they know this, is because they went from a great game that has just about everything that it has almost a perfect optimization of catering to the various groups of people as much as they can be catered to in classic World of Warcraft at the same time, to trying to solve the quote unquote problems with classic World of Warcraft and then just making things worse, right? And I think they know this, and it's really fascinating to try to break down what the problems were. Like going from 40-man raids to 20-man raids, and then making the raid content more difficult, completely fucks over the socializers. Like you gain almost you lose more demographic than you picked up, is what I'm saying. Like it's really hard on people who aren't very skilled and likely are never going to be skilled. Like that changes. It's really fucking hard on the socializers. You had to make things. You're making people a bunch of meta slaves, which means the PVE puzzlers are suddenly not happy anymore. It's just a really bad change from a player demographic perspective, if that makes any sense. Okay, so a lot of good game designers know this. Some don't, so we're going to talk about this for a second. You can see the title up here, Flexors and Salters. All right, so here we have a Flexor, and here we have what we call a Salter. And what a Flexor is they're the kind of people who, they want to do the hardest content in the game. They want to get the absolute best gear in the game. And then they want to find some high place where they can stand with a lot of traffic, like right outside an auction house on top of a building or something, and they want to stand there on top of with their Scarab Lord and their 2 Thunder Furies, and having their Nax Ramus, like, you know, Bis set on, and they just want to basically flex on everybody, right? And what ends up happening here is there's a group. Okay, so the people being flexed on break down into one of 2 categories. The vast majority of the people aren't bothered by this at all. It's like, okay, I'm getting flexed on, whoop de fucking do. Like me, I don't give a shit if you've got your two Thunder Furies and you got your Scarab Lord, because I know if you come down there and you challenge me to a duel, I'm gonna fuck you up. So it doesn't really bother me. Meanwhile, I'm like in my you're in Nax Biss with two Thunder Fairies and a Scarab Lord, and I'm over here in like tier fucking 2 with like an Edward the Odd, and I will fuck your world up. Just because my gear is like super well optimized for PvP. So for me, it doesn't really bother me that much. A lot of people aren't bothered by the fact that people are flexing on them. For a lot of people, it's just like something to aspire to. But then there are a group of people who, what literally happens in their brain, okay? So the flexor is doing the flexing because when he's flexing on people, his brain is releasing chemicals, like in socio-political philosopher degree background here, people, bear with me. His brain is releasing chemicals that make him feel happy, right? So he's a happy boy flexing on people. He doesn't even need other people to be sad. That would be more on the lines of a sadist. But, if him just flexing on people just makes him happy, then you have other types of flexors where they're made even more happy if other people are unhappy, kind of a thing. And again, it's the same thing. Their brain's releasing chemicals that are making them happy. For the people who are getting flexed on, again, there's one of two types of people. Either your brain is releasing chemicals that are... Either your brain's releasing nothing, you're like, okay, well, that guy's got a lot of gear, that's pretty cool. Or you feel a little bad about the fact that the guy has a lot of gear, because you're supposed to feel bad if biogenetically speaking, bioneurologically speaking, you're supposed to feel bad if other people are doing better than you. But you're not supposed to feel super bad if other people are doing better than you. But some people do. Like 20%, I think, of the human population, if they see other people who are doing better than them, have more money than them in the real world, have better cars, have better house, are doing just better in general, they just get mad. And what's happening there is their brain is just their brain is releasing way too many chemicals of a certain type. It's actually a neurological problem, believe it or not. Not as in you can take pills or anything, but just like human beings are really fascinating, and how their neurology gets set up from birth and so forth and so on. So you could have the exact same genetics. You could be like genetically identical twins, and yet, have a completely different personalities and have completely different neurological setups. Meaning that one of the twins might be straight and the other one might be like gay, for example, and it's just purely like a neurological thing. It's like one of them is releasing chemicals that say I like girls, and the other one's releasing chemicals that say I like boys. That kind of a scenario. What else we got going on here? Right, so you got salters and you got flexors. So a salter is a person who's really upset by the fact that other people have things that they don't have, or other people have things that they can't have, or the fact that they just can't have what other people have, kind of a thing. Now, I classify salters as being technically kind of a pet peeve. So when I say pet peeve, what I mean by that is you're walking around the house. Like for me, it's like like a pet peeve is like something you take way more seriously than you logically should, right? It's like logically, if let's say, what is it? Like let's say someone is making a weird noise, right? Or they're like, smacking their lips or something like that, like, or making some weird fucking noise. Normal people aren't really bothered by this too much, but some people might literally have like borderline aneurysms, like their brain might explode out their skull due to like weird little annoying noises that you're doing. And that's technically just a pet peeve. And what that means is a normal human brain should release chemicals that say this is mildly annoying. But for some reason, your brain is releasing chemicals that are saying that it's putting you on par with someone is like poking you with a cattle prod or something, right? Like they get super fucking angry. Another good example of a pet peeve are like things that just make you really, really mad, but you don't know why they make you like super, super mad. That's just your brain being a little too liberal with the chemicals there, if that makes any sense. Anyways, so let's talk about flexors and salters. Okay, so the moral of the story with flexors and salters is that as a game designer, you cannot you can't make both of these fuckers happy simultaneously. It's impossible. Which means that, and I have it written down over here, which means that as demographic groups, you either have to try to cater to one of them and give the other one the middle finger, or you have to try to find like a kind of middle ground solution for this. And the reason why this is as follows. It's like the flexors want difficult content, and more importantly, they want exclusivity, right? They want to be the ones who have all the gear, therefore they can go and they can flex on everybody else that doesn't have the gear, doesn't have the mounts, doesn't have the titles, you know, blah 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 blah. Meanwhile, salters are going to be very, very upset with this. And salters come in different forms, right? Like usually they're shitters, because if they weren't shitters, they would just like skill wise. Because if they had the skills, they would just go get the gear, and then they themselves would be a flexor. 90% of salters are usually flexors that unskilled flexors, like they can't actually get to being flexing, if that makes any sense. It's weird demographics, that's for sure. All right. So let's say you try to cater to the flexor in your game, right? You try to make really hard mythic raid level content where if you want the best gear in the game, this is basically what Asmongold proposes. If you want the best gear in the game, you have to be a mythic raider, and then you make the raids like super hard, right? Therefore, you can flex on people with your Thunder Furies and your Naxxramas gear and all that kind of stuff, right? Well, that's a perfectly viable option, but as a game designer, you need to know that you're going to get complaints out the ass from the player base, specifically from salters, and salters are going to probably account for maybe like 20% of your player base. So 20% of your player base is going to be absolutely fucking furious that they're getting flexed on all the time by these so-called elitists, and it makes them feel bad, right? They don't like playing the game that they're getting flexed on all the time. So they're going to constantly be yelling at you to change the game so that it's more even. So they're not getting flexed on all the time, right? Well, the next thing you know, you got to dumb down the raiding content, or you have to dumb down the gearing rewards. So it's like, okay, well, you can mythic raid now, but you're not getting any gear any different than like LFR kind of a thing. And this makes the raiders the flexors, of course, unhappy because they can't flex anymore. The salters are happy because they're getting the same gear, they have the same stuff, and they're not getting flexed on anymore. But now your flexors are unhappy. So now your flexors start complaining. Do I need to pause the video? Are you okay over there? One sec, we're pausing the video. All right, we're back. Try to keep this video under an hour. Okay, so in my opinion, it's like the best you can possibly do catering to flexors or so. I was trying to explain why the flexors start becoming unhappy if they can't get exclusivity, right? That should be kind of obvious to everybody. So the best thing you could possibly do is again, you got one of three options. Option one is you just cater to one or the other and you give the other one the middle finger. Option two is that you try to like do your time in the sun thing. So I have an example down here where it's like, example would be back when Titan Forging was a thing, allowing Mythic Raiders to get gear to 100% Titan Forge, where all other raid difficulties are at the mercy of whatever RNG systems you have available. What this essentially does is it allows the flexors their time in the sun. They get to stand around, they get to flex on people with their perfectly itemized gear that the rest of the community is just struggling to get, right? Because of RNGs typically. However, the salters are significantly less salty because they know that they're going to get the gear in time anyway, so there's no reason for them to worry about it too much. This particularly plays this really plays into other dynamics as well. So it's like salters are usually salters because they're unable to progress through the really difficult content, right? Your raids are too difficult. That's primarily what's causing the exclusivity, if that makes any sense. So by making them able to get their gear through easier content, but it just taking longer, they'll still be a little salty about it because they're getting flexed on, right? They don't like it, but at least it's not outside the realm of their ability to achieve, right? And more importantly, you're because they're as Kevin Jordan pointed out, there's always knock-on effects in an MMO for any game design decision. The fact that the fucking socializers can still go get the gear that they need, they can get the best gear in the game by doing easier content, but it's just going to take them longer. They're perfectly happy with that. Like, they don't really give a shit. So if we go back here to our raid fix solution where I was saying that, okay, well, in TBC, you can let people go do the 25-man raids as a 40-man raid, but you only get like half the badges, and therefore like it's going to take you twice as long to complete the content. This allows you to simultaneously have really difficult raids, so people can flex on people because they're getting a lot of gear faster. You might even give them titles just to help them like really flex on people. Like, hey, look, I'm a this, I'm a that, blah 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 blah. Meanwhile, the socializers are really happy because they get to go do 40-man large groups of easy content. Good to go. But then also the salters are a bit happier because they can tag along with these with this really laid back socializing crowd that are definitely not flexers, and they usually don't like flexers. Socializers usually don't like flexers, and they can just get their gear eventually. So even though they're getting flexed on by people, from a salter's perspective, it's not outside the realm of attainment via easier routes, and therefore they kind of look on the flexers a little bit pitifully, if that makes any sense, because it's like, why would I go through all... Like, it's kind of like how I look at people who get Scarab Lord, right? Where it's like, I get that I'm being flexed on when a person mounts up by a Scarab Lord right next to me, but I'm perfectly happy with my, like, you know, my 100 speed epic mount that I bought on the cheap from getting exalted with AV, right? Alterac Valley. So it's like, dude, I don't give a shit. Like, I don't care. You literally have a cosmetic flex on me. Congratulations. Fight me and you'll die horribly. Why do I care about this? Assaulters are kind of the same way. So again, there's like a 20% of the player base that has this reaction, or humanity that has this kind of reaction to other people doing better than them from a biochemical perspective. You can look it up, just psychology and neurochemics. Let's see here. However, a lot of them will be like, yeah, okay, I'm getting flexed on, but you had to do like really hard raid content and like probably suck a lot of dick to get that gear, especially in like TBC and classic WoW and stuff. And it's like, I don't really want to do super hard raid content. I just want to chill with the boys and, you know, not get flexed on. So, but I'll get that gear eventually, and then we can have a fight, and I'm going to kick your ass. At least that's what they think. So, you know, good on them. So those are really your only two options with the flexers and the salters. And these are the people who are going to bitch at you the most, right? This is the problem. So the socializers won't bitch to you too much. They'll just go to a different game. If you go to the forums, it's usually going to be like a flexer or a salter trying to bitch at you. As a game designer, you need to know what player bases exist. Like what portions of the human psychological condition exist that you absolutely should not be catering to a significant extent in your MMORPG. Another good example would be like killers, right? So there are a lot of games out there, like I play Rust, right? And there's a lot of games out there where they really cater to killers and they really cater to assholes, where it's like the game format is, I'm going to kill you and I'm going to take all your shit, right? Which is different than classic World of Warcraft. In classic World of Warcraft, it's I'm going to kill you and I'm going to cause you to... I'm going to take your time, basically. I'm going to kill you, I'm going to take your time. I'm going to kill you, I'm going to take your time. I'm going to kill you, I'm going to take your gold, because I'm essentially taking your time, right? I'm going to kick you off of this farming area and I'm going to dance on your corpse, kind of a thing, right? But he's not taking all your shit. He's not robbing your bank. He's not doing anything like that. In games like Rust and killer-based games, like your stuff is gone. And that's a community you don't really want to cater to too much, because it hurts the rest of your demographics, right? Like socializers really don't thrive well in a game that's catering to killers. And killers don't thrive well in a game that's catering to socializers, if that makes sense. So, like, PvE servers are not for killers. PvP servers are for killers. PvE servers are for socializers, and PvP servers are not for socializers, even though there's a type of socializer who definitely thrives on the PvP servers. So the point is, you need to understand as a game designer your demographics. And you need to be very careful which group you're catering to, which group you're not catering to. You should be perfectly fine not catering to a group, and you should be perfectly fine giving the middle finger to a certain group. So, for example, in an MMORPG, because it's an RP fucking G, it would be a very bad idea not to have flexors able to exist, because it's an RPG. You're killing the RPG element if you're not allowing flexors to exist. But at the same time, salters are going to be salty. So maybe you try to find a middle ground. I still think the really good middle ground is proposals like this, where it's just like, hey, you can do hard raid content. There's a significant reward for the flexors to go do the hard raid content. They gear out faster so they can start flexing on people more. But at the same time, you have a much easier rating option where you can get the exact same gear. It's going to take you a lot longer. Therefore, if you don't like being flexed on, just give it some time, give it a few months, do some raid logging, and the next thing you know, the flexing will go down significantly because you have the same gear that they do. For a time, the flexors will be unhappy. But to be perfectly honest, the flexors already got all the gear from that raiding content, so they're like, all right, whatever, I'll just wait for the next raid tier. The next raid tier comes out, and they can get their flex on again, right? Just the way it is. And more importantly, when you're also catering from a demographic perspective to the socializers, as opposed to literally splitting it up between making all the raid content easy so the flexors can't do anything, or making all the raid content hard so the flexors can flex on people, but the socializers are now miserable. It's just... All right, so final conclusion is that from a game designer demographics perspective, what changes from Classic World of Warcraft, why Classic World of Warcraft works, what you would like in Classic World of Warcraft, versus the so-called improvements that they've tried to make in Burning Crusade. The moral of the story is, if there's anything in Classic World of Warcraft you did not like, then Burning Crusade has got your back. Okay, Burning Crusade is there for you. It's got what you want. But if there was anything you liked in Classic World of Warcraft, odds are it got gutted and buried and murdered in Burning Crusade. The problem Burning Crusade is gonna have is Classic World of Warcraft is a legendarily popular game, right? It was extremely popular back in its day. It's proven itself to be extremely popular again. Cutting out everything people like from Classic World of Warcraft and then trying to cutting out everything people like from a really popular game and hoping and improving on things people don't like in that very popular game and thinking you're going to have a better game is kind of lunacy. It'd be like taking the game of chess and taking everything that people don't like about chess. I don't really know what that is, but taking everything people don't like about chess and improving it, and taking everything that people like about chess and throwing it in the trash, you're probably going to end up with a worse game than chess. And again, worst game, better game is usually dictated by player demographics. However, TBC will be... How do I put this? TBC and Classic World of Warcraft go together like peanut butter and jelly. Or more like peanut butter and Skittles. All right? Some people just want to eat peanut butter. Some people just want to eat Skittles. Ain't nobody liking no fucking peanut butter and Skittles. So what this means is, if you don't like Classic World of Warcraft for virtually whatever reason, and it's a deal breaker for you, Burning Crusade probably has your back. However, if you like Classic World of Warcraft and you don't like Burning Crusade, then Classic World of Warcraft has got your back. I don't see a lot of demographics that are going to overlap between Classic World of Warcraft and Burning Crusade, which is why I'm really sad to see that Blizzard has decided that they're not releasing fresh Classic servers alongside Burning Crusade servers. Because the Burning Crusade people they're going to be bored and done with the game in 3 months. Like anybody who's researching into TBC for like content and so forth and so on, you're looking at gearing, you're looking at PvE, you're looking at PvP, is noticing what a shallow puddle of an experience TBC is going to be compared to classic World of Warcraft. So that's just where we're at. Anyways, I'm going to end the video here. Deus Volt, boys, and yeah.